administration says that it's freezing all federal child care payments to Minnesota.
We believe the state of Minnesota has allowed scammers and fake daycares to siphon millions of taxpayer dollars over the past decade.
Dawn had not yet broken, but the operation was already underway. At 6:42 a.m., the icy streets of Minneapolis became the scene of a coordinated enforcement action as IC, FBI, and HHS investigators descended upon 18 suspected fraudulent daycare facilities. These establishments collectively claimed to provide care for 8,200 children daily. However, investigators found no signs of recent activity. Doors were forced open and flashlight beams swept through darkened, silent rooms filled with dust-covered toys. Attendance records appeared meticulously maintained, yet beds remained pristine and classrooms undisturbed, suspiciously so. What authorities uncovered wasn't simple negligence but rather an elaborate scheme. A system designed to safeguard vulnerable populations had allegedly been exploited and drained of resources. This discovery marked just the initial phase of the investigation. The circumstances suggested deliberate planning rather than coincidence. Evidence began pointing toward a specific individual. Amina Farah Hassan had gained recognition as a respected community advocate within Minneapolis's Somali population, appearing at charitable events and receiving commendations from local officials while earning the trust of many residents. However, investigators alleged that beneath this public image lay the mastermind behind what authorities described as Minnesota's most extensive child care fraud operation. She reportedly operated between 5 and 7 daycare locations, each allegedly functioning as an empty front. While documentation suggested active child care services, prosecutors would later argue that she had systematically fabricated enrollment records.
Unfortunately, we saw that there was important documentation, enrollment of the children, and also employee documentation that was gone.
Wow, so one of the daycares being investigated for fraud just so happened to get robbed, and the robbers stole the paperwork that would prove fraudulent activity took place. Isn't that convenient? What a nice group of robbers.
I just have to say that if you believe what this guy just told the media, you are far too stupid.
According to federal investigators, the operation involved the creation of between 4,000 and 6,000 fraudulent identities, fictitious children constructed using misappropriated social security numbers, counterfeit birth documentation, and repeatedly used residential addresses. Each fabricated identity allegedly triggered additional government subsidy payments. Throughout a 4-year period, authorities claimed the scheme diverted approximately $2.8 billion in funds, with investigators estimating that less than 4% was allocated to legitimate operational costs. The remaining funds allegedly flowed through an intricate web of financial accounts structured to obscure the money trail.
We have also suspended nearly 8,000 SBA loans, Small Business Association loans, to suspected scammers in Minnesota, of which there are many. It's a great state. It was a great state. Now it's getting destroyed by that stupid governor. What a stupid guy he is. But he's a crook. I mean, he's an incompetent guy, but he's a crook.
The consequences extended beyond financial losses. Approximately 68,000 low-income children reportedly lost access to legitimate child care services as authentic providers struggled to compete. Nearly 22% of licensed facilities closed their doors, unable to match the operational advantages of fraudulent operations that required no actual staff, food, or utilities, only falsified documentation. Investigators uncovered additional concerning patterns. Financial transactions allegedly mirrored the methods associated with organized crime networks, with transfers distributed across 43 separate accounts. Each transaction remained deliberately below federal reporting thresholds. Authorities claim some transfers corresponded with purchases of chemical precursors. The investigation intensified when agents reportedly discovered $38 million in a secured safe, accompanied by materials bearing cartel markings. This finding suggested the operation extended beyond simple fraud into something more troubling. Further investigation allegedly revealed an industrial facility financed through the diverted funds. Records indicated purchases of chemical precursors totaling $1.4 billion over 18 months, with the site allegedly producing substantial quantities of illegal narcotics. Investigators estimated weekly production values exceeding $3 billion. Within the facility, authorities discovered 61 individuals in distressed conditions. 17 were American citizens, while others originated from at least 6 different countries. Some had been reported missing for extended periods, and several showed signs of deliberate identity destruction. Evidence folders allegedly contained documentation suggesting involvement in organ trafficking through international channels. The investigation indicated the network engaged in human exploitation on multiple levels. By midnight, the case had expanded significantly. Federal teams mapped the operation across 6 counties, identifying 23 suspected fraudulent facilities, 12 financial processing locations, and 4 potential transportation hubs. A coordinated operation commenced at 12:21 a.m., targeting all locations simultaneously. Minneapolis witnessed synchronized enforcement actions as ICE, FBI, and HHS tactical units deployed in coordinated columns. Aerial support provided oversight as teams breached the first facility. The scenes matched earlier discoveries, vacant spaces with fabricated records. However, financial monitoring detected rapid movement of funds. Within 18 minutes, approximately $96 million transferred through collapsing accounts configured for automatic deletion, suggesting network members had detected the enforcement action. Teams advanced on 6 primary locations simultaneously. At one Hennepin County facility, agents encountered 3 individuals attempting to destroy digital evidence. A brief confrontation resulted in 2 suspects detained and 1 apprehended while attempting to flee. At another location disguised as a child development office, officers discovered servers connected to offshore accounts, active document destruction equipment, and numerous prepaid mobile devices. The most significant incident occurred at a warehouse-scale facility in Brooklyn Park. As agents approached, a delivery vehicle emerged from the garage at high speed, attempting to breach the perimeter. Tire deflation devices disabled the vehicle, which collided with infrastructure. Inside, personnel found cash and documentation linking the operation to organized crime couriers. Within an hour, authorities had disrupted the network's outer operations, making numerous arrests and securing digital evidence while freezing financial accounts. Following financial indicators, agents identified an industrial zone showing unusual activity patterns. Electricity consumption spikes, excessive water usage, and thermal signatures indicating continuous machinery operation. At 2:18 a.m., aerial surveillance confirmed regular vehicle traffic and ventilation system activity. The location proved to be a multi-story narcotics production facility allegedly financed through diverted childcare subsidies. Interior conditions included industrial chemical processing equipment and assembly line configurations. Financial records revealed billions in precursor chemical purchases through shell entities sourced from multiple continents. Each level contained different operational components: synthesis areas, drying facilities, packaging stations, and encrypted communication systems connecting the site to international logistics networks. Federal teams surrounded the compound from multiple directions. At 3:04 a.m. thermal imaging detected movement inside, with some individuals apparently armed and others engaged in evidence destruction activities. At 3:11 a.m., the tactical operation commenced. FBI and IC units entered from opposite directions under defensive shields. Armed resistance from elevated positions created a hazardous environment as enforcement personnel advanced through chemical-contaminated corridors. In a lower section, teams discovered the 61 captive individuals in severely compromised condition. Many were too weak for independent movement, while others showed signs of severe trauma. Their fingerprints had been chemically removed, erasing conventional identification methods. Medical teams established protective formations to evacuate them through the active conflict zone. On upper levels, the confrontation intensified as agents moved toward production areas. One individual attempted to ignite chemical storage, which would have caused catastrophic destruction. A hazardous materials specialist intervened moments before ignition, securing the emergency valve. On the western perimeter, an escape vehicle loaded with chemicals and currency attempted to breach the outer fence. An armored response vehicle intercepted the truck, absorbing the collision. Personnel extracted occupants as smoke emerged from the damaged engine. By 4:02 a.m., remaining resistance had been neutralized. Fire suppression teams addressed chemical containment issues. The facility, previously operating continuously, fell silent except for ventilation systems and aerial support aircraft. Within 1 hour, federal forces had dismantled the hidden operation. Rescued individuals received medical attention, evidence was secured, and financial channels were frozen. As morning arrived in Minnesota, investigators confronted unsettling questions about how such an operation could function undetected and whether similar facilities existed elsewhere. Morning revealed smoke still rising from the disabled compound as the final tactical convoys returned to federal command. Inside the operations center, investigators reviewed data screens displaying the full scope of the financial losses, which had exceeded $4.3 billion, funds intended for vulnerable populations diverted into criminal networks. The fraudulent network succeeded not through elaborate concealment but by presenting exactly what bureaucratic systems expected: proper documentation, complete signatures, and community endorsements. Behind this facade, billions flowed into organized crime operations, drug manufacturing, organ trafficking networks, and human exploitation pipelines. Public response intensified rapidly. Families demanded accountability. Legislators scrambled to respond. Government officials attempted to distance themselves from the scandal, citing procedural compliance. However, the very procedures they followed had enabled the catastrophe. By noon, federal agencies recommended nationwide audits of all welfare programs: childcare assistance, nutritional support, medical subsidies, refugee aid, and housing grants. Analysts warned that this network might represent one component of a broader national pattern, a framework potentially replicated across states with similar oversight gaps. The central question evolved from "how did this occur?" to "how widespread is it?" One troubling reality persisted. While this specific operation had collapsed, the systemic vulnerabilities that enabled its growth remained unaddressed. Numerous vacant childcare facilities nationwide could be collecting government payments. Thousands of fabricated identities might continue siphoning funds. Legitimate children could be losing services because officials hesitate to ask difficult questions. The dismantling of this network marked not an ending but the beginning of a broader reckoning for Minnesota, the federal welfare system, and a nation confronting the exploitation hidden within its social safety programs. Political repercussions struck Minnesota immediately. Media representatives converged on government offices, demanding answers from officials who had supported the programs exploited by this criminal operation. Mayor Jacob Frey and Governor Tim Walz, leaders who had previously highlighted Minnesota's welfare system as exemplary, issued statements within hours. Mayor Frey attributed criticism to fear-based narratives. Governor Walz emphasized his administration's anti-fraud efforts, despite billions evading state oversight during his tenure. Public reaction proved skeptical. Outside government buildings, hundreds gathered: parents, educators, small business owners, former childcare employees whose legitimate employment had disappeared as fraudulent facilities dominated state subsidies. Their protest signs reflected personal grievances, demands for oversight, accountability, and comprehensive audits. The community recognized that this network represented not an isolated crime but a symptom of systemic dysfunction, one built on unchecked funding, inadequate accountability, and leadership prioritizing perception over performance. Community groups demanded an independent statewide task force. Somali American families, many uninvolved in the fraud, spoke publicly, emphasizing that these crimes did not represent their community and that honest immigrants had suffered most. Religious leaders called for transparency. Neighborhood associations petitioned for protections for legitimate childcare providers. As investigators released additional findings, the focus shifted from "how was this executed?" to "why did officials fail to detect it?" The answers proved uncomfortable. Funding approvals operated automatically, inspections were deferred, warnings went unheeded, and political leaders, anxious about bias accusations, avoided demanding genuine accountability. This represented an unavoidable lesson: compassion without oversight enables exploitation rather than preventing it. Federal analysts recommended implementing new verification systems, fraud-resistant funding models, and mandatory quarterly audits. The community demanded these reforms, victims deserved them, and future generations depended on them. A critical question remained: if this empire collapsed only because whistleblowers refused silence, how many similar operations remain hidden? The systemic vulnerabilities that enabled this fraud continue to exist. Minnesota had awakened to a reality that demanded fundamental reform.